Greetings, 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 greetings. The rules of engagement are very simple. Do not give attention to the attention seekers. They are here looking for their father's love and their mother's love, and this is not the place they're going to get that. Let them talk to themselves. You will see them shrinking into the non-entities that they are. If you've ever watched, there's a film, a series, a movie, like different movies. There's a character called Pennywise. He's this villain. He's this villain that keeps on scaring people and unaliving people. But how, in one of the movies, how they defeat this character, they actually stop fearing it. And it shrunk into such a small size. And I realized that, sometimes there's characters, even amongst our people, here online, all they want is attention. Do not give them attention. Starve them. Do not give them attention. Don't block them. Don't mute them. Do not give them attention. You're going to see them hating themselves even more for needing so much attention from strangers. They're going to hate themselves even more when you don't give them attention. And they will disappear into thin air like the non-entities that they are. So that is the rule of engagement. Don't give them their fuel. Let them starve. We were talking previously about orientation into the world. We're looking at the Indigenous program of orientation. I engaged on the process of birth, pregnancy to birth. Obviously, there's a lot of things that I did not mention, a lot of details. So do not take this video or any of my videos for that matter as exhaustive materials. My videos are good enough to get you started on your own personal journey of knowledge and immersion into Indigenous affairs. The real knowledge comes in when you start to go and look at these things for yourself. I'm not your source of knowledge. You should go and look at these things for yourself. So my work is not designed to be the Bible truth that nobody can argue against. It's designed to get you using this thing, your mental faculties, to look at things, question things, and take it forward to go and pursue the truth. I'm not gonna play another song actually. I'm not gonna do that. I wanted to, but I'm not gonna do it. Now, once a child is born, the child must be given a name, but there are too many complexities that come into play when it comes to naming. Firstly, in some of our cultural practices, not everyone does this, but some of us, if the child is a firstborn, I repeat, if the child is a firstborn, some of our practices require that that child must be taken to the maternal side. The firstborn child must be born at the mother's home. So it's the mother's people that are going to look after the laying in mother, umdlezana. I repeat, some of our traditions require that when it's the firstborn child, the mother must go back home to assume her maiden identity once again. Think about the first fruit, indeed. That is a tithe. That child is a tithe. That's one. Two, another factor that comes into play is the gender, the sex of the child. If the child is a girl child, there's going to be a different load upon her shoulders. If that child is a male child, there's going to be a different load upon her shoulders. Also, it depends whether the child is red, black, or white. Now, I know you must be confused. What do you mean red, black, or white? We are all black here. Think about it this way. Red people are royal people. They are red because they are people of the royal blood. Black people are civilians. not skin color, civilians. So that means they're not seers, they're not healers, they're not traditional, it's normal citizens. White people, on the other hand, in the indigenous sense, not Europeans, indigenous white people, are those ones with spiritual disposition. Your seers, your rainmakers, your warlocks, your war doctors, etc., etc. So when we refer to royal children, we call them the children of the blood. Abantwana begazi. When we refer to those who have spiritual disposition, we call them abantu abamhlophe, those who are white. And then abantu abamnyama, it's the civilians. And those factors come into play when a child is born and the family that the child is born from. But the general rule of thumb is that if it's a firstborn, they are taken back to the family of the woman. This is important because this informs the naming. In fact, in some Kui and Kwe traditions, the firstborn child may be named after the family of the mother, generally. This may inform us that the firstborn child is named after the family of the mother. In some Kui societies, they do this clearly. Firstborn child, the name is the mother's brother, if it's a boy. If it's a sister, it's the mother's sister or the mother's mother, something like that. Now, there's someone that, is it possible to be royal and spiritual? Well, I mean, it is possible, but it was shunned. It was shunned. It was not allowed, that thing. Royal families were kind of like pushed not to engage in, especially the heirs of the royal family, especially those who are going to rule. They were kind of like, they were trained to avoid anything to do with spiritual practices, such as becoming the actual doctors and shamans, because they already have absolute power just by being royals, and they lean on the advice of the healers and the seers around them. Now imagine you are a royal and you're a seer. You're basically going to become a dictator, a tyrant, because you know everything. Nobody's going to tell you anything. You're going to control everyone. Do you get it? So it was controlled. Like if you're a royal, you don't engage in those kind of things. You take care of the throne, and you're going to have seers. And it can be too much for you. It's going to make you drunk. It's going to make you very drunk. I'm going to tell you a story right now, and it ties into this naming thing. In the 1700s, kwaXhosa, the king is Phalo, who was born in the late 1600s or early 1700s. He receives two marriage parties in Nduli. Two marriage parties from the Abatembu royal family and the Amampondo royal family. These are big royal families in Eastern Cape, Abatembu and Amampondo. They're sending their princesses to the Xhosa royal family, the Galega royal family, kwaPhalo. They receive these princesses around the same time, and they are of the same status. That is to say, Amampondo, Abatembu, namaXhosa are of the same royal status. They are kings. The daughter is the daughter of Undayeni amongst Amampondo. I forget whose daughter the Tembu princess is, but she's from Abatembu. Now, Phalo is confused. What do I do? He takes both of them, and there's a whole story about it. By the way, this is where Kgakgabe and Galega then come in as equals. However, Galega ends up receiving the throne of the entire kingdom. Kgakgabe is blessed to go and rule over other clans known as AmaKgakgabe. However, Phalo at some point wanted to go to Cape Town. He wanted to go to Cape Town just to assess the country. That is how the story is told. Phalo, in the 1730s, received a group of white people in the Xhosa royal family. They lived in the Xhosa royal family with Phalo in the house. They did something wrong. They were unalived. A few of them were told to go back to report to the Cape Colony. This is around 1736. Shortly after that, King Phalo decides that he wants to go to assess the country all the way to Cape Town and back. Now remember, this is going to take years because the entire group is going, like the whole army of Upalo and Galega and Kakabe are all going to Cape Town. So it's going to take like 5 years to go to Cape Town. Although it should take about 3 months, 4 months, 6 months at most. But they go and stay. They plant, they harvest, they eat, they live. Go and stay, plant, harvest, eat and live, go and stay. So it's like they go, move to a place, stay for like a year. Go to another place, stay for like a year. Go to another place, stay for like a year. So King Palo decides, after these Europeans were staying with Amaxhosa, because of their bad behavior, he decides he needs to go and assess the country. That's literally how it was said. And it's an important detail that in the mind of the Xhosa king, it was his duty to go and assess the entire country below where they were at that moment. Although, as though he's the overseer of the land. And this is important because it aligns with the diaries of Jan van Riebeeck in the 1650s that some of the nations in what was called Cape Town, some of the nations there were paying tribute to Amaxhosa, including the Qinikwa of Ususwa and Udoka, who was then called Class. They were paying tribute to Amaxhosa. In fact, today, the Qinikwa of Udoka and the Class, some of their descendants are trying to revive relations with Amaxete amongst the Amaxhosa. Not to deviate. On their journey to Cape Town, they went as far as Jeffreys Bay, just before you cross into Humansdorp, just before you cross into Oudtshoorn. They turned back. Palo was quite old. So he said, you know what? I'm not going to make it to Cape Town. Let's turn back. They left Kagriwa. Kagriwa now is what people call Kariga. It's Kagriwa. The place has a lot of snakes. In those days, it had a lot of snakes. This is also the reason why the Amamfengu could not cross Tsitsikamma. They could not cross Tsitsikamma to the Cape Colony in the 1800s because the snakes were just too dangerous. So it is said that's one of the reasons Palo decided, you know what, let's just go back. The country is just dangerous. There's someone who says it has many lizards now. You see? There you go. I'm not making it up. Anyway, Palo went as far as Kelekwa. Now, Kelekwa is what they call Khamtuos River. They went back through Gqeberha, through Xesi, until they reached Kugombo, or Kwagombo, by the Cove Rock. Now, after Ugombo, they crossed over to Ngahuni, the place they call Nahun, and they crossed Umgunube, the place they called Gonubi today. You know, there's no Gonubi or Nahun, it's Ingahuni no Mgonubi. They stayed around the Kwelecha area. Now, Kwelecha simply means abundant alu, where there's a lot of alu trees. You know, Mgunube means the berries, where there's bumbleberry trees. And Ngahuni means like a foot. Like a foot, shaped like a foot. That's what these names mean. They stayed around the Kwelecha area. One day, the princes were out, Kalega doing other things. There's a little rivulet, small river, that feeds into Kwelecha. It's called Ngengolo. This is the river where Kalega was called. Now Kalega is the heir of the throne. He is the prince. The heir of the throne. He is called into the river. He drowned in Ngengolo. He drowned in Ngengolo. He came back. He was a Gricha. He was a shaman. Inyang. And this is when Kakabe was like, I know. This is dangerous. Because then I can never question his authority now or his decisions. Everybody's going to be a witch. Everybody's going to be dangerous. Everybody must be unalived. So it's one of the reasons that pushed Kakabe to really leave. So I'm going to that question of you, Mthembu Kubenguka. That question that you said on being royal and being Isangoma. It's a bit dangerous. Let's go back now to the firstborn. So the firstborn may be named by her, by the mother's people. But also the firstborn, there's another thing now. If it's a woman, Mafungwashe or Mafungwase. Now, what is Mafungwase or Mafungwashe? Well, firstly, ukufunga is to swear by or to pledge something or to take a vow. Uyafunga, ukubambathisa, ukunqophisa. Ukufunga. Now, there's a passive form Ukufungwa. When people swear by you, bafunga wena. So ukufungwa is when people swear by you. Mafungwa say the ma in the beginning of the word is what do we call it? It's a compound prefix that we use to name people. That's why you have Mandela, Madiba, Madikizela, Ma what, Marumo, Matome, Maposa. This is just a naming prefix, a compound naming prefix. Nazok, isizwe sikamzilikazi sasifunga ngobhatayi, udadewabo kamzilikazi. It's true. Izizwe zifunga the women. Zifunga amantombazane izizwe. That is to say, on so and so's name, we promise you, because why kufungwa intombazana? Because intombazana is the, especially a firstborn lady, she represents the dignity of the family. She represents the authority of the family. So kuzawufungwa yena ngabanta kwabo, kuzawufungwa yena ngabakhuluwa nabaninawo, kuzawufungwa yena sisizwe. Zinkomo zakomkhulu intombazana. She is the wealth of the family, literally. So uSandile, King Sandile wamaXhosa kwaNgqika, his firstborn daughter was Emma. Not only was Emma given the name Emma, but the parent's name changes when the firstborn child is born. This is why naming is so important, because it is not rigid. Naming continues. You get named until you die. So the firstborn child is called Mafungwashi when it's a female. Where I'm from, a male is called Inkulu. Inkulu. That is a firstborn male. Inkulu leyo indlalifa. That is to say, Inkulu Gezenzo. Inkulu Gezenzo. If you've ever watched the story of Ityala, that is the whole contention there. The bone of contention is Inkulu, Ubukulu. Who's the senior one? Now, firstborn female, Mafungwashi. Firstborn male, Inkulu. Firstborn child, generally, Lizibulo. Ukuzibula is to give birth for the first time. Then the mother takes the child to the maternal family. The child may be named by the maternal uncle, by the maternal grandfather. Now, I'm going to explain how this manifests. The Xhosa king, Gukhabe, remember, his mother is from Abatembu. If anyone knows whose daughter Khabe's mother was, please comment in the comment section. If you know the mother of Khabe and who was the father. So, uKhabe uzalwa eBathenjini, gunina inkazana yaseBathenjini, inkosazana. Litsibulo, yes, Litsibulo is Zibulo, the firstborn child. UGcaleka uzalwa inkazana yaseMampondweni. That is to say then, they had other names that they gotten from their mother's families, without a doubt, because they were the firstborn children. So they would have been named in their mother's homes. This is why uKhabe is called Untsinga kaNomagwayi waSembo. This is soursop, herbs and spices, good for health. This is why uKhabe is called Untsinga kaNomagwayi waSembo. Now, if I remember well in my research, Nomagwayi is Khabe's maternal grandfather. This thing wants to sing now. It's soursop. Soursop. Very good. Soursop lives. Powerful. So, firstborn child gets a maternal name. Kamagu. So Raghabe gets a name from the maternal side. Untsinga kanomagwayi wasembo. Uzamazama ilizwe lizamazama usibalamda kusambata zemfutshane kanti zomlingane kube izinto uthi zimfihla amadolo. Kuthiwa ngusinga siyaya mhla singayi singasiyi mhla sisiya. Amhamka sitsheketshe. Ntsinga kanomagwayi wasembo. Unomagwayi is in reference to the grandfather, I think, of Raghabe from the mother's side. So you can see it manifest. In fact, one of Raghabe's names that I've learned in my maybe 2 years ago is the name Gambushe. I repeat, one of Raghabe's names is the name Gambushe. Hey, I didn't know this name existed until I went to really old records. They called him Gambushe or Gambushe. Now, I know what Gambushe is. Gambushe means red, the red one. It's actually corn, the red rainbow corn. Umbila obomvu, or umbona okhwequ wasembo, which connects to Raghabe's mother's people. Mntakanqika Libongo. Please, if you know Raghabe's mother, please comment here. I'm trying to remember. But I know the name Nomagwai comes from the mother's people. And his other name, Gambushe. Gambushe means the red one. It's the name of the red. Umbona obomvu. Now, in the former sky, there's a river called Gambushe there. Now, it's not the same Gambushe as the one of Amachase, because that one is younger. Gambushe Amachase was lived in the same time as Ushak and Ufaku and Uyinza. Raghabe is a great-great-grandfather of these people. So, Gambushe Wamabomvana, Ochezi, is young compared to Gambushe. So, kwa Raghabe, there's a river called Gambushe, which to me opens my mind that it's definitely the name was there, because that name cannot just spawn out of nowhere. And that name came through Raghabe's mother's side. It confirms this tradition of male children taking their mother's or mother's father's names or something like that. Female children will take maybe the uncle's name. So that's what happened with the firstborn child. But the naming process of a child not only affects the child, it affects the parent as well. Because the father then all of a sudden has a new name now when there's a new child. Usandile wakwaNgqika, the king of amaNgqika, umgolombane. Mgolombane. Oh, kuthiwa ngundadako Vece, uXesimagqagala madoda. His firstborn daughter was Emma, unkosazana Emma. Sandile, after giving birth to Emma, became So Emma. Amongst abathembu, Undaba yenyamakazi, he had 2 children, uCotho and uPitso. This is why you get Usopitso and another name, Socotho. That is named after the father. In fact, uKheli, unyana kaYinza. No, sorry, uKhawuta, the father of Uyinza, was also called Usozanzolo. Uyise kaZanzolo. UKhawuta yena bambiza uKhala, Akhala. Uyise kaZanzolo. UZanzolo yena nguyise kaSahili. Awu, ngumbhekwatshini bathi uqumbile madoda. Isibe esikhethayo kwezinye izibi. Ngudumbela imilenze. Umhle kaNyawose. Ugangathi ilizwe libe ngumgangatho. Azanzolo. So the name change process doesn't just affect the child. You must understand. The parent will have to update their name. That's why that whole nonsense of home affairs is useless for us. It doesn't apply to us. It applies to Europeans. Tina, you're going to have 10 names in your lifetime. When you were younger, you will have a baby name that is no longer going to apply to you when you're older. Imagine, there are people when we were young that were called Nomatse. Nomatse is that thing. That little animal that does this in the desert. I forgot its other name. But when these people grow old, they don't even look like that animal anymore. They don't have a small body anymore. They look different. They have a new name. But if you had registered that name at Home Affairs, there would be no matter forever. Okay. Meerkat, yes. Ilitse. Meerkat. Tse. If you go to Kui, it's Tse. Now, you must understand, that is the name a child is going to get at birth. That name will change as the child goes through the different rites of passage. This is why uShaka wayebizwa umlilwana, aphinda abizwe uSigidi, aphinda abizwe uShaka, kuthiwa nguShaka Sishayeki, aphinda abizwe ilembe eleqa amanye amalembe, aphinda abizwe uNodumehlezi kaMenzi. Onke ngamagama kaShaka because of certain events that took place. These names didn't just come out of nowhere. Onke ngamagama kaShaka. UNodumehlezi kaMenzi, ilembe eleqa amanye amalembe, uSigidi umlilwana kasenza ngakhona, uShaka Sishayeki madoda. Ngesaba nokuthi uShaka. And this is not just uShaka. Many, almost all kings. In fact, not just kings, all men, all women, people had many names. But we started with the baby naming process. So the baby gets that name. The baby gets that name. And that name, the baby will grow with it. But as the baby grows, it's Chaka, not Shaka. It's Chaka in your language. Remember now, this is what we are trying to correct. Yabo. There is no right or wrong. People pronounce things the way they pronounce them where they are from. In Eastern Cape, it is Chaka. That is true. In isiXhosa, it is Chaka. But in isiZulu, sakwamageba, nguShaka, uShaka Sishayeki. In isiZulu, they pronounce the sibilant sh, not a ch. It's the same thing with uLobhengula. KuLobhengula in one dialect, kuNombengula in another dialect. KwiSizulu sakwamageba nguNombengula. KwiSindebele semithwakazi nguLobhengula. This is what we call dialect. We don't speak the same way, guys. We have to accept it. KwaXhosa kuthiwa Chaka. KwaZulu kuthiwa Shaka. It's like that. You see my name, Usandile. Ekhaya bathi Sandile, but when I speak to Baphuti bathi siyadziye. They don't say Sandile, bathi siyadziye bona. If Basotho wanted to say my name, they would say Riatile. Riatile, munna. Injako. Kanjako. Now, the child gets the name. The child starts to grow. As the child starts to grow, they gain other names. Now, these names are going to be circumstantial names. If the child is really good at fighting other kids, they'll be given a particular name. If the child likes to very handy with the fists, they'll get another name. If the child is short, child has one eye that is like this, etc., names are going to develop. When they go through rites of initiation, they get new names there. When they come back from those rites of initiation, they get new names. But one of the most significant names for women, where I'm from, when a woman gets married, the woman gets a new name, KwaXhosa. You don't get married with your original name. Your surname stays intact, but you get a new name. This name is known as igama lasemzini. This is the name that's going to be used in your marital compound. That's it. This name will be used in your marital compound. You cannot be called your maiden name, your igama lasekhaya, your home name. Anyone who uses your home name, emzini, that person is disrespecting you, according to us. That person is disrespecting you. So, That is name. Now names. Names are designed with specific tenets attached to them. They're designed to be prophetic upon a person. That's one aspect of a name. They're designed to be prophetic. So I'm trying to think of a prophetic name. I can't remember. You guys know what I mean. Names are designed to reflect the current situation, like my name, Uzadile. And tell you what, the name Sandile is not from my family, it's from a stranger. But he's a stranger in terms of what is this? In terms of European standards. But the guy is from my clan name. Umfene. So he came, he offered money. He came with an offering to get the right to say a name. And that's how it should be. If you want to name a child, you bring a cow, baba. You bring a goat and other gifts. And the family will allow you to say, okay, yeah, say the name. He called me Sandile Sizwe fan. But my mother, her name she gave me is Meliqiniso. To Melqiniso, you'll hear my siblings call me Melqiniso. But it's not on my ID, but the Melqiniso. And then as I'm growing up, I'm getting other names. Umveliso is one of the names I got in my upbringing. Umveliso is one of my names. Umdengentonga is one of my names. Which other one? Livumile is one of my names. You see, I've got many names. I don't even remember others. But they're there at different stages in life. You see. They are meant to reflect certain things. Yes. So if you want to give a name to a child, you usually come with gifts. Amalizo. Or we call it ugusoka, something like that. Now, some names reflect the situation of the birth, the events of the birth itself. So if the birth, let's say there was thunder and lightning and all that, that child may be called Zulu. That child may be called Uzulu because Izulu belidala. That child may be called Mapule. That child may be called Pule or Unomvula or Umvuleni. You see, because the skies were doing their thing. If the parent felt like the pregnancy was very painful, the pregnancy came with a lot of grief and all that, they may call that child suffering. They call that child suffering. It's rare though to hear these names, those kind of names these days, because I mean nobody wanna name their child that. But it was there, you understand? And then royal families would have a specific way of naming that inspires fear. A way that inspires fear. Yes, I like that name, Lungani Sanguma. I really like that one. It's a proper name. And I encourage these guys, by the way. Anyone who's in my groups and my projects knows that I encourage using old names. So let's say Ulungani says the grandfather's name was Sanguma. You see, you could bring back that name, but just say Guma or Gum, because that's an ideophone for thunder. You could just say Gum. I like it. There's no rule that our names must align with European naming conventions. You could name your child Eyi. Eyi means nice and good and joyous. Or Kenge, like you have Kengeba and Kenga. Within the history of my people, we've got names like King and Kang and Kenga or Kange. Actual human beings who lived with names like this. And I encouraged the reclaiming of such names. In fact, the harder the name is to pronounce for Europeans, the better. I repeat, the harder the name is, the better. You see, my neighbor's name is Nkoyi. Yeah, Nkoyi. That is last one. That's the last born. You understand? So I really encourage that. Oh, Ngobo, names like Ngobo, Kwabe. You don't see such names anymore. You have Temba. Nothing wrong with the name Temba. It just really feels like, for me, it's curated to be easy to be pronounced by certain groups of people. Just name your child No. No. You understand? And it must be difficult to explain to Europeans. It must be difficult to pronounce. So, royal families had this tendency to name with names that inspire fear to the enemies. See, a name like Ndabezita. Ndabezita, like, izita zako zikhuluma ngale ndaba. They have no chance. They're always talking about you. Yabon? Zondwa zintshaba zingazumenzando. It's an entire sentence. Those were the royal names, Baba. Uzondwa zintshaba zingazumenzando. Hated by the enemies, but they will never do anything to you. In fact, my late sister, may she rest well, she named one of her sons Ukanithule. She named him Kanithule and Badanile. It was a square ball to the neighbors. But hey, shut up, man. You see, my sister was proper. She was a proper mamfene, that one. Her behavior is aligned with us. Tina singa mamfene. As large, we don't have time to be sugarcoating things, but so I'm encouraging the revival of such names. Now, if you think about it, names change. Names change, and as they change, especially nowadays, we try to be religious with names. Now, there's nothing wrong with some names, but most names, it's like they're made for home affairs, man. As long as they're easy for home affairs to read, let's go. Like, all our names are boring these days. I like names from back then. Oh, Gugu Baba. That's it. Gugu. Your child is born in the Cape Flats. Call them Gugu, man. There's gunshots everywhere. You see names like Tiko. Tiko is someone who's articulate. Someone who's very articulate. Kule, someone who's artistic. Like when you say Kule, you're literally saying artist. When you say Tiko, you're literally saying speaker, articulate speaker. And these are the kind of stuff that we must look at now. Yabo. This is the kind of stuff we need to look at. We really have to look at that. You see, in Damane, it's Daman. You know the Damara people. They are also called on Daman. Daman. Damase. Damase. Oh, Damasonkwa. The Damara people all use that name. The Damara who are part of the Nama. Damane and Damase, you find amongst them. We get it. We have one of the name Trikos, Mzilikas is younger mother. Trikos. So that is one of the things I would love to see. Home Affairs will be forced to update their systems. Some of us are going to use the International Phonetic Alphabet, exclamation marks and other marks in our names. We're going to use that because the problem with using Roman characters to spell our names, it doesn't encompass the pronunciation bit. It doesn't pronounce the pronunciation. So it's just a plain name, but the pronunciation is not there properly. So we're going to use exclamation marks. We're going to use the International Phonetic Alphabet. We're going to use diacritics. And Home Affairs will have to allow that. We'll have to allow that. We must press this government. We must press this system, guys. The system is not representing us. So we have to press them. We have to press them. I've got an announcement to make. Remember part one that I did? No, the live that I did just now. I just want to update you guys that it is going to premiere at 8:30 today. At 8:30, the video I did just now is going to premiere. And then this one we're doing now, I'm going to probably post it tomorrow. I think. So today, 8:30, you can go to my YouTube channel and watch the previous session. This one is the continuation from that. So yeah, I just wanted you guys to know. Just give me a sec. I think Chachu means champion, eh? I think it means someone who's a champion. In Chachel, the name Chachu. Yeah, look at you. Those symbols are actually all languages should be written in those symbols. The reason why I say that those symbols in country contain the sound, so they are universal symbols, not just Kwe. They are universal. Do you get what I'm saying? They're universal symbols. So the reason why Kwe, so-called Kwe languages, which is Xhosa and Zulu, Sepedi and all that, are Kwe themselves, but that's for another day. The reason why those languages use those symbols is because there are no letters to represent and properly. You get it? There are no letters to represent. When you say Kwa in Kora, Kwa means to rise. Khutswa or Khutsuwa, Vuka, Kwa. There's no way to write it, that thing. And it's because when someone is thirsty, old people will say, Aniwe, Aniwe, Aniwe. You see, there's a glottal stop there. You can't write that using these letters. So for there to be a glottal stop, you need to put extra symbols. Aniwe. Some elders will say, Apantu, Apantu. It's almost like they're sucking the air in. Apantu. You can't write. There's no way to write. So those symbols are your best way to represent that sound. Sometimes there's a word that I came across for a lion in Kwi. It's Aima. Aima. I repeat, Aima. Now you may ask yourself, why am I saying ah? Why am I not just saying ah? No, it's not ama, a lion. It's Aima. The vowel is squeezed out of the voice. So you squeeze your voice when you pronounce it. Aima. You can't write that with Roman letters. You can't write how the voice must sound. So then you need diacritics. You need those international phonetic symbols. Those international phonetic symbols are going to help you explain exactly to the reader how to pronounce a word. In fact, in phonetics, I don't know, guys, can you hear me? My network shows red there. In phonetics, when you write words, even English words, the spelling for writing and the spelling for pronunciation are completely different. In phonetics, the word boulevard is actually written in a way that you can pronounce it from reading. It's not boulevard. No, it's boulevard. You can see. So International Phonetic Alphabet represents sound, not just script letters. It's sound. So you know, oh, this is a long vowel. Ah, this is a short vowel. Ah, this is a schwa. You get it? That's why abantu abamnyama, when they speak English, they don't know how to, unless they acquire it from their environment. But they do not know how to pronounce English words. Not because English words are difficult or abantu abamnyama are stupid. Simply because nobody teaches you the difference between a schwa and a vowel. I'll give you an example. The word suppose in English, the pronounced version of the word does not have sa, doesn't have a vowel. Suppose. It's a schwa, suppose, and it's short vowels. Tina, we don't know that. We think it's an open mouth vowel. So you say suppose. It's not suppose, it's suppose. So we have not actually learned phonetics properly. Exactly. You couldn't say occur. You'll say okay when, because that's how we pronounce When you will say okay, it's not okay, it's occur. Occur. Because that's a vowel, and then that's a retracted R. And there are many other ways to teach this. So the International Phonetic Alphabet is good because it actually teaches you that. It literally teaches you that. You could go right now to Google Dictionary, search the word, let's say example. Just search example, meaning, and pronunciation. You will see there's example, EXAMPLE, the one that you know. And then there will be 2 forward slashes. Inside those forward slashes, there's going to be IGZAMPL, example, the actual word that is pronounced with the mouth. So that's where the disconnect is. And same thing with our languages, unfortunately. You write one thing, you pronounce something different. And there's 10, 20, 30 different languages in South Africa, each with their own writing systems. Look at how Sesotho is written. It's Sesotho, but it's pronounced Sesotho. Do you get what I'm saying? Sesotho. When I see, I'm saying Sesotho, but they're saying, no, Kisesotho. It's true, Kisesotho, but what's written down and what is being said in the mouth are 2 different things, because that's a completely different set of rules. But if we kill this nonsensical nonsense, we use the international alphabet system, there's absolutely no rule that will be different. Sesotho is Sesotho everywhere in the world. It's going to be written in the same way because S is S, Su is Su, Tu is Tu, wherever you are. All right. Now, a child has been named. They come back at home. They've been named on their paternal family side. They're going to be named other names on their maternal family side. And then they're coming back to their paternal family, which is their actual family in Indigenous affairs. They're going to get other names. So someone from the village may want to come and give this child another name. They're going to come. They have to offer something, gifts, offerings, something, to get a chance to name the child. In fact, to even see the child, you need to offer something. I grew up with this happening. Some of my nephews and nieces, I saw neighbors coming to see them, because that's how it is. When you just had a new child, after maybe like 2 weeks or so, 3 weeks, or even a month, people can start to come to see the child. You don't see the child empty-handed. You don't see the child empty-handed. You come, you offer something, and then the parents will allow you to see the child. Then you may see them. That's what happened with me. A member of our clan, we don't know him, we just know the clan. He came, asked for a chance to see me. He saw me, and he offered something. And then he gave me the name. Then my mother gave me another name. And then as I'm growing, I get more names and names. You go through initiation, you get another name. You go through initiation as a Sangoma, you get another name. Every time you go through initiation, you get a new name. In those settings, in each of those names is to be used in those specific settings. If you go to the mountain, other men have to refer to you with the name you got there. You got because you went there. So when other men greet you, they cannot greet you with your name that you were given as a baby. They have to greet you with the name now that you have at this stage of life. When you go to learn to be a traditional healer, a shaman, the other traditional healers must give you, they must call you with your traditional healing name, sorry. Does Intonjane get a new name? It should get a new name, Intonjane. Intonjane should get a new name. Anyone who went through Intonjane here to confirm for us? But it should. New wives get new names. People who go through initiation to be Sangomas get new names. Boys who become men get new names. It may only make sense. Any initiation ritual comes with a new name, because you come out of that a different person. There's some questions here. Kwe language are originally Sotho. Yeah, I think the people in the comments can answer this kind of stuff, man. There's a much bigger fish for me to fry. Why is Xhosa has surnames that don't have letter H? It's not easy Xhosa, it's Home Affairs. Is it Xhosa surname? Is it Xhosa surname? Gabela is Gabela. Tukan is Tukan. It doesn't change. It's Home Affairs that decide to write Kak. My surname is Tukani. It will always be Tukani. It can never change. That is the name of one of my ancestors, Tukani. The fact that there's no H that Home Affairs decided to remove, that's something we should be fighting. But okay, how are we going to fight that? Because people are busy drinking every weekend. Sizawulwa njani? Amadoda kuthi enxila. But that's for another day. We're talking about naming now. So, now, the naming process is a very important stage or aspect of orientation into life. Because remember, the concern we have here is that the child must become an individual tomorrow who's comfortable to contribute to society. Who's comfortable to contribute to society. So that is the whole idea of orientation. And naming is one of the most important things, because then names reflect, and not only do names give us an idea into the future, they also reflect a trail left behind. Like Ushaka, his names that he got as a child and his names that he got when he was a man and powerful and ruling reflect two different things. The childhood names reflect perhaps hopes for the future, but the adulthood names reflect actions that he's taken. Surnames are names. Remember, surnames are just people's names. So what I'm saying applies to names or surnames. Surnames was someone else's name 200 years ago, 300 years ago, 500 years ago. So there's no such thing as surname. It's just a personal name of one of your ancestors. That's what surname is. It's literally just a personal name of one of your ancestors. What is primordial? Primordial means first. That's what primordial means. It means original. From the beginning. Ingqanqi. That's what a primordial is. Ingqanqi or ingqa. So when you say ingqanqi or ngqa, that is primordial. I'll give you an example. People who were settled first in a place, we call them amangqanqi, the primordial beings. Ngqanqi, ngqangi, ngqanji. That's it. That's primordial. What does nzawu mean? Nzawu? It's just a Tekela form to say ndawu. Ndawu simply means tawu. Tawu means kau. Kau means the pursuer, the hunter. It's a lion. Kau, it's a lion. Ukungqawa. When we say qinqas, we're talking about amangqanqi. Qinqas iqona ngamangqanqi yang. That's what we're talking about. So now the child has gotten the names. The child is starting to show their own individual behaviors. They get new names. When I was young, someone who was good at playing sports or was good at doing like digital stuff like game and all that, we call them Tina Omalala. We call those people Omalala. The idea was that they sleep at that place. Like if we play at the soccer field, Ulala Pa, that's why he's so good. Ulale Balin, if you're playing arcade games, Ulale Game Shop. So we used to call them Omalala because they're so good at this. They're experts. So you'd be given the alias Umalala. Yo, Umalala Mjit. But as you grow, you get another alias. I'll give another alias. I had an alias when I was young. And it's so hard to explain these aliases because they come from your friend's group. One of my names as a little boy was... What is this? Uba. Like Ba was my name. Ba. But what is Ba? Like, You ask yourself, no, the boys knew what bar is. It came from another name of another guy that we used to play soccer with. Ubatala. So we used to laugh at him for having that name. And somehow it got attached to me, except Batsala. Then ended up becoming Ba, and then the guys added something else. Then they called me Bawan. And I'm like, but that's how it works. Another guy who, when he was younger, he had big cheeks. So he was called Stukutuk. He was called Stukutuk because he had big cheeks. And he starts growing. The guys changed it to Ustwai. Up to his late teens, he was called Ustwai. Some of these guys end up becoming dangerous people in life with crazy names. Ustwai. Another one is a guy who used to smoke weed a lot. Kamalake is Unsikelelo. But he used to call weed a specific name. What did he call weed? Uplaki or something. We ended up calling him Uplaki because he's always talking about weed except Uplaki. So that's how names, sometimes when you are younger, they start as future looking, but as you grow, names start to be like a track record of your life. They become a track record of your life. So it's one of the most important it's one of the most important aspects of orientation into life. Names and naming. Exactly. Start. It's a fat person. That's start. Now, someone was asking, can you name yourself? Absolutely. Absolutely, you can name yourself. Sandile Madzigane, I gave myself that name because of my growth into the knowledge of my ancestors. One of my ancestors from Lesotho was a person called Madzigane. So I took that name upon myself. I'm not Sandile Madzigane. Nobody gave me that name. I gave it to myself. I'm pretty sure Mukaranga wa Gwambe did the same thing. Mukaranga wa Gwambe did the same thing. So some names you start to adopt for yourself as time goes. Your knowledge grows on this aspect. Your knowledge grows on that aspect. You feel like this suits you more. You feel like this explains you more. You adopt the names. So you can give yourself names. Absolutely. Unjaduka. Unjaduka for me, it feels like umuntu oqwebileyo. Ukujaduka mos. Xa uhanjwe into esabuphuphu kanje uyajaduka. Injaduka ke ngumuntu ojadukileyo. But it's more like an appearance, like of the person's skin. Maybe someone with eczema would be called injaduka. Yeah, but someone with that kind of skin. That would be someone called Njaduka with a specific appearance. Umchana wam akhona, when we were younger, he was called Kam. He was called Kam because of his skin. He had very tough skin. He didn't like putting Vaseline on. So the other guys called him Kam. As we grew, he was called Kam. And then it grew further to be called Crocodile in Lacoste. You know, boys. They called him Crocodile and Acosta. But as we grew, I heard his new friends gave him new names. That's how names are, guys. They are very fluid. At school, you get a different name. Now at school, I was called Umtomdala, the elder. I kid you not. I was called Umtomdala in primary. Some guys used to call me the elder, Mdomdal, because I was just serious and knew a lot of stuff. Like, this guy is smart, man. They literally called me that, the old guy. And then, in high school, they used to call me Ngandweni and Shembe. Not Shembe. Who's this one? Ngandweni and who's this other one? Ngandweni. There's another guy, I forgot his name. Shongwe. I was called Shongwe. Why do they call me Nandwen and Shongwe? Well, I always wore a full uniform with the blazers and that's just how it is. And then my teacher gave me the name Umtengendonga. My teacher from Engcobo, Mr. Kappa, my daughter. Oh, it's like so there's many other names that I got. Ma 7 was one of them. Because I always get 7 distinctions for everything at that point. Anyone who went to my school can confirm this in the comment section. So I was then called Ma 7, then I was called Mongameli. These things develop. But that's not my point here is that they kind of act as an orientation, vessel, names. They help you to orient you towards life, and people engage with you in that aspect. And then when you move through the different stages of your life now, some names of yours, we will avoid them, some will use them. Like when a woman gets married then into a new family, she gets a new name. The old name cannot be used. That's now a way of enforcing respect and honoring her original family. You can't use the other name to honor. This is what we call ukuhlonipha. This is what we call ukuhlonipha, to avoid disrespecting a name. When the new wife comes into the new family, she also can't say anything that is remotely close to the family, to the name of the father of their husband. So I'll give you a name. One of my grandfathers is Mpendulo. Answer, Mpendulo. My mother can't say Mpendulo to this day. She can't say Mpendulo. If she wants to say the word Mpendulo, she needs to find an alternative word, which is where this Kwi and Kwemana and Kora languages show themselves a lot. Or she just says Gamakulu, the great name. The great name. Our clan name is Hlati. My mother can't say Hlati. She says Ingete. I say Ingeteni. She says Inkun. You get it? Now my father's name is Kunku. My brother's wife, my wife, they can't say chicken. They can't call chicken Inkuku. They must find another name for chicken. Imbabama. Because that's my father's name. So anything remotely resembling my father's name, they can't use that. So if, let's say, one of my father's brothers is someone called Muntu or Buntu, my wife or my brother's wife can't use the word Abantu to refer to people. She has to use Abaju or Abagu or Abanyate or Abateuki. You get what I'm saying? This is to preserve that honor, that sacred relationship between the two families. And that's what we mean by naming as a way to initiate a person, to orient them into life. By getting certain names, you know your place, you know how to navigate certain spaces. You know exactly how to navigate certain spaces. You don't call a cow inkomo, you call it inombe or iqegu. You don't call that water amanzi, you call them tam. You don't call ilanga, the sun, ilanga, you call it imvuka, ibakama, ijuba, or ikami. Many different names. Now, the next step into orientation into life is learning the duties when it comes to the wealth of the family. One of the most important aspects of Indigenous life is the wealth of the family, because the wealth of the family is exactly what will guarantee your existence in the future. And this is particularly important when we think about agriculture, both crop farming and cattle farming. Now, girls know that their duty is to look at the economy of savings. The economy of savings, particularly when it comes to crop farming. Women take care of crop farming. The land is a woman's duty in the indigenous culture. Farming land is a woman's affair. It's a girl's affair. But that is not to say men don't get involved. They absolutely get involved in many ways. Even about Koeta, they can be asked, once they've healed, I agree they used to stay 6 months, they can be asked to go and plow in certain fields. That's how they get money, wealth, when they are still in the mountain. Makweta came back rich in the mountain back in the day because they are working whilst they are there. That's a boot camp for how to live It was not some thing to go and sing all night and drink and get drunk and all that. It was a boot camp for how to live. You get there, you heal, you are fine, and then you guys get contracts and jobs and gigs to go and work in different fields. Yeah, Wakwete used to stay 6 months. Half of the year you are gone. That it should come back exactly. Right now it should come back. Boys should be gone for 6 months. From March until September. We don't need them. Because they come back drunkards now and drug addicts. That needs to, they must stay there for 6 months and they must be disciplined. And the only men who must be allowed to go there are exemplary men in society. Back in the day, you didn't see a man who gets drunk there. A man who's a drunkard, a man who sleeps with prostitutes. They never used to go there. It was the most exemplary members of society who used to take care of the boys. Even the surgeon, Ingcibi, the one who takes care of the actual operation itself, he was assessed by the families, the fathers. He was assessed in terms of character and habits. If it's because remember, boys used to go to the mountain with the princes, the children of the king. So if you want a certain direction for the nation, you want the nation to be orderly. Even the man, England, the one who's going to do the operation to the boys, has to be someone with, their life must be already on point. Why is the drunkard going to be taking care of boys there when the drunkard can't even take care of their own life? What is he giving to those boys? Demons. Now back to this. That is another form of orientation to life. This is what I'm talking about. Our life orientation program is broken and it needs to be resettled. It needs to be reset, because what should be happening right now, the time boys come out from there, they should be able to get cars, they should be able to get apartments, they should be able to get fees should be sorted for school, because that was the point of them going there in the first place. By the time they come out, they would be rich, they would have cows, they would have goats, people would have given them stuff. That was the whole point. They're ready to take on life now. By now they come back, their totis who are busy doing total stuff. Same thing with girls. Abaya Quintonjan. Obviously, Tonjan didn't take 6 months. It took much shorter than that. Perhaps I think a month or so. It took about a month in Tonjan. But even that, it was a transformative experience. The lady needs to learn about womanhood. All the risks of sex education. Sex education was disseminated to girls at that time. What it means to give birth, what it means to sleep with a man, what it means now that she's reached a period. It was communicated. Girls didn't learn from Google. Pike. Where? Because right now, that's not the case. This is part 2 of the Indigenous Life Orientation Program. I'm going to stop here. I've got another appointment to fulfill. Sometime in this week, maybe tomorrow, I'm going to do part 3, 4, 5, and 6. Thank you, guys. I'm out now.